We are not going there, I decided, shaking my head. I tilted my head to the side and remarked, "It feels a little like I am being gaslighted. Everyone feels the need to tell me about how there must be something wrong with me because I rescue children. Maybe it was the purpose for why I went through all that. Perhaps this is the reason I was born. I'm tired of people feeling compelled to tell me how out of control it is." Nate and Dad exchanged a look just as the doors chimed. "Chip, identify visitor." Fireball Mahoney and Lieutenant Melissa Thornhart, the computer returned. "Please let them in," I advised the computer system, pushing my plate away. The newcomers gathered around the table a few minutes later. I handed the overseer to Fireball as Ace advised me, "I'm working with you here. I canceled all our meetings today. This is more important." Just then hail to the chief played on my comm. I pushed back my chair and decided, I'm going to see what she needs. I don't want to upset her any further. I looked to Dad and Nate and asked, "Would either of you like to fill them in on what happened outside these quarters?" Nate volunteered. I heard him telling them the story in detail. I spoke to the president, my Aunt Maddie, in the corner of the room before returning to the table a few minutes later. I sat and watched as Fireball took the overseer apart and pulled out a chip. "I am suspecting," Fireball decided, putting the overseer back together, "that chip is what was causing the blurriness. To make sure, though, can I keep the overseer for a day or so to go through the footage and see if any more pieces are blurry?" I nodded and responded, "Sure, General Graham is going to get us the footage of the overseer that is in the vault because the recording is made in 3 locations on the device, in the vault and in an undisclosed place. Then we will see what was originally recorded and how that specific piece became blurry." I turned to Nate and Ace. "We will be receiving 2 experts on the twin effect phenomenon, Professors Colton Hudson and Summer Paxton. The president is sending them here to help us." "Help us?" "We have nothing. None of our contacts know anything about this, and outside of Johnny directing me to look at the government, I'm at a loss. I cannot produce evidence out of thin air. No matter what Colin says. I swear if this case turns out to be busy work, a case that is so simple a first-year agent can do it, I'm going to be done. I can't even." "Why would your Aunt Maddie do that?" Dad countered, tilting his head to look at me. "She has taken you and Nate away from me and the IIB for the last 2 cases before this. She doesn't even entertain any other agents." I shook my head and gave him a sidelong glance. "I don't know. I know why we were on the Saving the IIB case. That made sense, but right now, I have a shot judge, a spatial distortion, a defiant security chief in this case. I just want it all to make sense. I'm asking for too much, I know." My comm chimed. I looked at it and pursued the information several times before I lifted my head. I met Nate's eyes and decided, that's disappointing. Joey has decided to move her and the boys with Colin to the Kennedy. The Kennedy and the Liberty will be exchanging security chiefs and school heads. Nate questioned, pouring himself another glass of orange juice, "How do you really feel about that?" "I am fine," I insisted, downing my orange juice. "They made their choice. Joey has to do what is right for her family." I turned to Ace. "We will be receiving Security Chief Thea Jordan and Headmaster Leonardo Cruz. Both are single parents with 2 children." I retrieved a pair of gloves from my pocket, pulled them on and took the chip that Fireball discovered and shoved it into my Quan pad. I moved through the information for a few moments before I sighed. I slid it over to Nate and responded, "Now I see." He took it and studied it for a moment. "Indeed." He moved it to Dad, who looked at it with interest. "Oh my," escaped Dad's lips. I watched Dad rub his head again. I rose from my seat, pulled a kettle from the cabinets and filled it with water. I added a few ingredients I kept in all of the VIP quarters. I put it on the stove. When it steeped, I turned off the stove and poured the concoction into a mug. I brought the mug out to the living area. I handed it to Dad and directed, "Drink this. It will make you feel better." Dad took it and smelled it. He wrinkled his nose, giving it back to me. "You will feel much better after you drink it," I persisted, motioning him to give it a try. He pinched his nose and drank it down. After putting the mug down, he waited for a few minutes before remarking, "Wow. What was in that? I feel 100% better." "Fireball," and I looked at each other. Fireball asked, gesturing to the mug, "Johnny's miracle cure?" I nodded. He should market it. Only the inner circle knows the recipe, Fireball admitted, giving me a playful smile. He must think highly of you to give it to you. I countered, sitting next to Nate. He didn't officially give it to me until I owned a stake in the C-sharp. Fireball twisted his mouth and exchanged a look with Nate. Officially? Cougar and I had deciphered the recipe long before he gave it to me, I confessed, rubbing the muscles in my neck. If we hadn't, I wouldn't have gotten through the first few years of the academy, and he would have been fired a long time ago. I owe my careers to his magic potion. I scrutinized my Quan pad for a few moments before I mentioned, I have heard rumblings of a new player that is trying to join forces with some of the current players. The Galactic Intelligence Organization, the GIO. There have been alarming reports coming across the President's desk about this player, and the reports have connected the twin effect to the GIO. Nate questioned, reaching out to clutch my hand, but how could a new player cause a problem that has been going on for multiple decades? None of these players have been around that long. That we know about, I said aloud what I knew everyone else was thinking. We have no idea if they are only new to us. I suspect the real reason for our involvement in this is Aunt Maddie has heard, as I am sure you and Nate have, Dad, that the EO had an insurance policy that involved creating a separate covert operation called the GIO. It had only been rumors until now. The person heading the GIO is Charlie Frankel. I reached out and took Dad's hand. And I am suspecting she is the real reason you and Mom are separated. I watched Dad look at our hands, then up at me. She has contacted me too. It didn't occur to me that the twin effect and the spin-off covert organization of the EO were related until I read what was on the chip. Nate cleared his throat. Anyone want to fill the rest of us in before I have to get ready for my shift? Dad nodded. They should know. I stood and walked around the table. Like I said, the GIO is the EO's insurance policy. They are a covert organization that is being headed by Charlotte Charlie Frankel, Torch's daughter. I made it to an empty chair, putting my hands on the back of it. We'd heard rumors. We were keeping an eye on the situation, but my first introduction to Ms. Frankel was when she called me 3 weeks ago. She acted so excited to finally track me down. I rolled my eyes. Please, with my book out in the public, and considering how often I have been in the press, it wouldn't have been that hard. I took a deep breath as I slapped my hand on the back of the chair. She claims she is so excited to meet her older sister. Wait. What? Rachel and Torch have a daughter, Fireball exclaimed, raising his eyebrow. Is that the call you got where you started throwing things? Ace questioned, wagging her thumb at me. I knew you were not okay. Nate rose from his seat and wrapped his arms from behind me. He rested his head on my back. You kept telling me you were okay. I knew you weren't. I spoke to Mom, who adamantly denied it. I don't always believe Mom, but there was just something in her voice as if she needed someone to believe her, I explained, darting my eyes around the group. But, I agree, that her going to see Torch in prison isn't making her look innocent in this. I know my gut says she is not my sister. However, what does this woman have to gain by pretending to be your sister? Required Ace, putting her hand on her stomach. Her facial features turned an odd shade of green. Fireball, there are soda crackers in the cabinet to the right of the refrigerator. Please get them and heat up the concoction in the kettle. Ace looks like she is going to need them. With one look at Ace, Fireball lifted himself out of his chair and dashed into the kitchen. Jag, I whispered, stroking his hand with my thumb, if you don't get ready soon, you will be late for your shift. Nate withdrew from me and quipped, yes, ma'am. He looked at the rest of the group. There she goes, transitioning from my wife to Colonel Jessa Masters. He surveyed me from head to toe. Shouldn't you be getting ready too? She has about an hour or so, Ace told him. She caught my eye and added, she worked late on Monday and Tuesday, so she could have 2 late mornings this week. She's been doing this for the last, 4 months or so. Is that how you have been getting so much done on your second novel? Nate countered, turning to gaze at me. I shook my head and answered, not exactly. I just have a pressing matter that needed my attention. He nodded, kissed me, walked toward the doors, then he took the suitcase and moved in the direction of the hallway.